Michael Wolf here, and I've got the fabulous Trisha behind the camera. She's my camera lady today, and it's a beautiful Sunday morning, and we have been slaving hard on this car. This is our 67 Volkswagen. We're taking it to SEMA, so today is the last day that we'll have it, and then we're taking it to a shop in Claremore, Parts by MST. They're the company that builds the pulleys, the valve covers, and some other engine accessories, and they're sponsoring it. They're putting it in their booth for the SEMA show, which is out at Las Vegas, for those of you who don't know what SEMA is. And it's like one of the largest trade shows there ever is. There's like, they estimate 150 to 160,000 spectators or attendees. So anyway, 1967 Volkswagen, chopped, sectioned, channeled, shortened, tube frame. I finished this car in 2019, and my husband Jimmy, he passed away a year and a half ago. We had built the car, mostly me. He built the engine. He helped me build the suspension. He was always quick to point out that I did like 95% of the work, so he was always proud of that. Originally the car was black, and this spring I was just having a hard time, like trying to find myself and get motivated, and of all things I'm like, boy, I really want to change the wheels on this. And so changed the wheels, and then I told Trisha, because we met in April, I said I'd like to change the front suspension, because there's only so much you can do with the Volkswagen suspension to make it look nicer. And since this is an open wheel car, the suspension was all exposed, and I had spent hours and hours modifying the beam. That's what they call the front suspension. Spent hours modifying it. It had custom headlights that were custom perches welded on the beam, and the car had kind of an old-timey hot rod flavor. It had bigger wheels on the back, skinny wheels on the front. They were like a knockoff ET wheel in the back, and then a knockoff spindle type wheel, so it was like 60s dragster theme. But anyway, so then I started thinking about that suspension change, and then we'll walk around here. So what I did, I found some suspension components off of a C5 Corvette on Facebook Marketplace, and boy, that Marketplace gets me in trouble every time, because I'm like, I see it, and it was a good buy. It was like, I think I paid $300 for it had 3 A-arms, the bottom ones, and then one top, and I said, that's okay, I don't need the other top A-arm because I'm building my own. So anyway, these are C5 Corvette. The spindles are C5 Corvette. Rotors, calipers, C5 Corvette. And then I made these upper A-arms, and I did a video on this like 4 or 6 weeks ago. And my pivot point is actually, I just use stuff off the shelf. It's actually like these little stub axles off of a trailer, and then trailer hubs, and I turn them down. So I've been teaching myself how to use the lathe. And anyway, and I made this new front piece here, and which it just kind of bolts to the original tube frame that I had built for this. So and then I had welding to do in and around as well. But I think the coolest thing about this is the cantilever coilovers, and these are QA1, made in USA. But my suspension comes over, pivots here, and then the coilovers have a mounting point on the top and bottom, of course. And we just got done driving it for the first time. Now my toe end is way off, but as far as the ride quality, like, it was smooth. So that's what I know at this point. Hopefully I get the toe end fixed right, and it'll drive better. I also made these pods for these lights. I wanted kind of like a turn light, or a daytime running light out here. Now they're a little bit dimmer than I thought they'd be, so again, we're shaking this down. After SEMA, I may end up swapping these out for something a little brighter. As you can see, I've got my main headlight on, and Just Wrap It, the business in Joplin, which I'll get to that in just a minute. They did put a smoked tint over it, and it's still bright. So anyway, moved the headlight to here. That was another major change. Now, for those of you who have followed this car since I built it a long time ago, the whole front clip was louvered. And originally the hood opened, the fuel tank was under here, the battery was under here, and the firewall was about where a stock Volkswagen firewall was. But what that did is my pedals were, I never had a lot of leg room. And so then, you know, I'm like, everything with me, it's a slippery slope. I'm like, well, I'll make this change. And I'm like, well, while I'm at it, why don't I just make this change? So I cut out the firewall, moved the pedals forward, and then cut out the sheet metal on the front, different hood, welded it all up. One thing I did, originally the car did not have this piece, this rib right here, which is actually a piece of 1-inch round tubing. The back had it, but the front didn't, so it was a little lopsided to me, so I added that in there. And then, I don't know if she can get in here with the camera or not, but you can see now the pedals are pushed way far forward. I'm using an Optima battery, which Optima is a sponsor. You can see the Optima battery way up there. But that's all open. And I still have to do a little bit of cleanup work under there. Don't have time to do it before SEMA, but maybe eventually get some sound deadening and whatnot up there. Now, I had to move the fuel tank to the back, which turned out to be a huge job. And I'll walk over on the other side. Wasn't real excited about putting it back there, but then I sure didn't want the fuel tank in the front anymore. So I had a couple different size fuel tanks, and nothing really fit just real good. And then my filler neck, the fuel tank had to be low enough that my filler neck could drain into it properly. So this is the size that I end up getting. It's an RCI, it's a 17-gallon. But it was just big enough that there wasn't any place to bolt it to, like structurally in the floor. Now, the floor is tubing, and it's skinned on both sides with aluminum. So then I had to take parts of the floor panels out, weld tabs in to give me good secure mounting points for the fuel cell. That slowed me down. I've got a box over here. It's made out of a piece of 4x6 aluminum tubing, and it has my fuel pump, my fuel filter, and my fuel pressure regulator. Now, eventually I'm going to cover this up. It'll be hidden. But anyway, it looks nice for now. It'll go good out at SEMA. And let's see, what else? I guess we can talk about the wrap. It's, of course, the top is just as pink as you can get. It has a lot of metallic in it. Now the bottom is actually black with a pink overlay. But it changes colors, and it doesn't matter, like, what we can try to do a video, we can try to do pictures, and it just does not do it justice until you see this car in person, because this can sometimes be as purple looking as, I mean, it's just wild purple. Sometimes it's, like, to me right now, at my particular angle, it looks gold. And then other times it looks kind of bronze, but it's a wild color. And then it's separated by, I call it like a candy apple red, but I cannot remember the actual name of but that doesn't matter. Another thing I did, like, it needed a little bit of bling, so I made these. Now these are partly, like, when I tighten these down, when these painted before, the spoiler, which was black, and a lot of times you couldn't even tell it had a spoiler on it, but when I tightened these bolts down, it kind of twisted the paint. And the wrap was, I didn't want to do it to the wrap, so these are actually somewhat functional in the terms of, as I tighten this down, the wrap, it wasn't twisted. And besides, the stainless steel looks really great. Another modification I made, this is actually a motorcycle tail light. It has a stop function in it, and your left and right turn signal, and a parking light. And it's bright. And I changed that, made one single tail light, because originally it had, I think there were 38 Chevy tail lights right here on each side. And I needed a place to put my fuel, so I took the tail light off, put my fuel there, filled the holes in the other side, and moved the tail light there. Now, let's see. Under the hood, I added a stainless steel exhaust, and when I was backing the car up, I think maybe it captured some of the sound. It's got a nice low tone to it. That is an empty exhaust, 1 5/8. It came with an more like a traditional oval polished muffler, but this really cool independent rear suspension that Jimmy and I built, that muffler would not clear that suspension. So I ended up putting a Super Trap type muffler on the end of it, which I like those because you can adjust the tone and whatnot. And again, MST, or it's going to put it in their booth. So as soon as we get this back to the shop, we'll load it on the trailer, get it down to Claremore, and they'll be putting new pulleys on it, push rod tubes, valve covers. They're going to clean it, put their latest and greatest products on it. And then the hood is held closed by 3 quarter-turn fasteners. So anyway, oh, and then lastly, I changed the windows. And originally it was glass, and they were held in by a universal style window trim. And this wrap, we were asking it to do a lot of things that the wrap didn't want it to do. For one, wrap over a ball, and then to get the wrap to work down in here. And Blake at Just Wrap It, they did an awesome job. We're so happy with it, but he had a hard time getting the wrap all the way down in the corners and turning the wrap this way. So I made oversized, and because of time, and like it would be hard to have a glass shop cut it out like exactly, I cut these out of Lexan. Had CV Glass cut it out of Lexan. I trimmed it. Then Blake put a film on top of it, an overlay. So that's going to help that Lexan be more resilient. And then finally yesterday, my really good friend Eric Anthony came all the way up from Oklahoma City, and he ceramic coated it. So the gloss is even glossier, and the ceramic coating is going to protect the wrap. And actually, guys, I'm really glad I wrapped it. I'm a decent painter. I'm a better buffer. But when it comes to metallics are hard to spray down. And this would be almost more like, I think custom painters would almost call it, if you painted a car this way, it would be like metal flake. And with something that has that much metallic in it, it's hard to spray it out without it gathering, or without stripes, which I get it gathering stripes. So, and I didn't have a place to paint. So I feel like the wrap is better than what I could have done when I painted it. And I'm happy with it. And folks, with that, I'm gonna sign off on this. Trisha, do you have anything to say?
No, not really.
Okay, so we're gonna go back to the shop and get it loaded and head on to Claremore. So if you're still watching this, thank you so much for following my work and hanging out through this lengthy video, and we'll see you at SEMA.